Hey everybody, I'm Ted Drozdowski from Premier Guitar, and I'm here today with one of my very favorite guitar players. I'm honored to be here with Adrian Belew.
Thank you.
Adrian is, to my thinking, one of the most ambitious sonic architects of the last 45 years in American popular music. Also just a great player, a great songwriter, and from everything I've seen about Adrian and every time I've encountered him, also a wonderful human being, man. So
Thank
it's so
you.
good to see you.
I'm trying. I'm very happy to be here. We're in my studio in the bottom floor of my house here, and got my new guitar rig right in front of us. So proceed with whatever you want to ask.
And this is the guitar rig that you're going to be using on the Beat Tour.
Right, it was specifically designed for that.
Yeah, and that I think is one of the most anticipated tours of this year. It might not be the biggest one, but it's one of the coolest, that's for sure. And what Adrian is going to be doing, along with his accomplices Steve Vai and Danny, Carey, and Tony Levin, is playing the material from the three innovative, mind-expanding 1980s King Crimson albums: Discipline, Beat, and three of a Perfect Pear. And I'm wondering, Adrian, how did this get launched? You know, was this your concept?
Yes. 5 years ago, 2019, I realized it was going to be the 40th year anniversary of that particular lineup, which is when I joined the band, 1981. And I called Robert and said, shouldn't we do something for that? And he said, well, he couldn't do that. He got other things going on, understandably. I knew that Bill Bruford hadn't played for 10 or 15 years, but I called him anyway. I said, would you like to be in a rock band again? And he said, what, sit around at the luggage carousel? I took that as a no. But I still wanted to try to do this. And I had been working with the producer Scroat, who did all the David Bowie shows. He was very good at putting that kind of stuff together. And so we said, well, maybe we can do this on our own. Maybe. And we started working on, well, who could do it? And I said, I cannot possibly do it unless it's the top level people, just like the King Crimson Band itself was. And the first person I thought of, you got to take Robert's position in great consideration.
Yes.
Was Steve Vai, because I read an article with him once where he said that those records meant so much to him and especially loved Robert's playing, his style. So I called Steve Vai first thing, out of the blue. I don't really know Steve very well. And he was so excited, I couldn't believe it. I was in Publix in the parking lot and he almost blew the phone out of my ear. So that set us on the course, me and Scroat. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So that's the first 2 years. It's taken 5 years to make this happen. That's the first 2 years. When that finished and everybody went back out to playing concerts again, we revived it again and said, okay, let's call Steve again. Well, Steve was more excited than ever, but he said, trouble is, I had 18 months of touring planned before COVID. I have to do those shows now. So, okay, we got to wait another 2 years. And then, we were still kind of planning we got to have the right bassist and drummer. And we had thought about this a lot. Of course, we wanted Tony Levin.
Yes.
There was no choice about it because he was in that band, a very, very important part of it. So we waited till Peter Gabriel's touring stopped, and then finally it was time to call Danny Carey. He was my choice from the beginning. I've known Danny for a long time. Once again, another person who has always told me that those records changed his life. And he knows more about that music and Bill Bruford in particular than anyone. So then Tool came into town here in Nashville. I went and talked to him privately. He said, give me 3 days to talk to my wife. He's got 2 small children, and to the guys in Tool. And that was the longest 3 days of my life. Then he finally called and said, yes, we're doing it.
Nice.
So and Al Jones, their manager, Tool's manager, said he's had a perpetual grin on his face ever since.
It's very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So Steve Vai and Danny both told you that those albums had a profound effect on their lives and their music. Mm-hmm. What about on your own? Being in the midst of that music, creating just this entirely beautiful soundscape that hadn't existed before.
It was phenomenal to me. I had started playing guitar. I was a drummer to begin with and happy being a singing drummer. Well, I had songs in my head. I couldn't explain them to people. So I got sick, and a friend loaned me a guitar, and I started trying to figure out how to do it. In other words, I only really started to be a songwriter. I didn't think I'd ever be an electric guitarist, but once I tried a pedal, that was it, you know. I was stuck. And so all my life leading up to that, I was hoping to be in that position of making my own music or music with a band, and, you know, being the singer and writing the songs and the lyricist and playing guitar in the front of the band was my dream. And then suddenly, there it was. And suddenly it was King Crimson. So I was way over my head. I mean, I thought I'd have a little Beatle band. But it turned out, you know, here you go. Okay, reinvent the wheel, Adrian. Sure, why not? And so yeah, it meant so much to me, that period. It was it just kicked me through the door creatively. So I made the Discipline record, which we all wrote together, me and Robert especially. And then I did my first solo record, The Lone Rhino, and then I went back and did the Beat record, and then I did my second solo record, The Twang Bar King, and then we did the Three of a Perfect Pear album, all in a row, boom, 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 with major tours of that stuff in between them. So those 4 years right there were incredible for me. You know, they just opened my mind to everything.
Well, and the Beat record essentially provided the name for this tour. Does that record have special resonance for you versus the other two?
My favorite really would be Discipline, although I love all three. What happened, when I called Robert after we'd finally gotten this band in position, I called him to make sure he was still okay with it. He told me I could run with it. And we talked for a few minutes, and he said, well, what are you going to call it? And I said, the producers are still working on that. And he said, well, he has used Discipline for all his record label stuff and so much other things. We, being Tony Levin and Pat Mastelotto and I, have used Three of a Perfect Pear for our band camp that we put on every year for 13 years now. So Robert said, why don't you call it Beat? Now, if you want to know about the Beat album, I'll tell you a little story. That was the hardest record I've ever made in my life.
Really?
I lost my hair making that record, some of it. Most of it is, well, most of it's gone anyway. So that record has a special place in my heart as the one experience I never want to relive.
Well, I think it has some of your most interesting lyrics, too.
Well, yeah, I had started
reading
reading Beat poetry and the Beat poets, and especially their autobiographies, things, you know, in a way to generate the idea of spontaneous prose. So I thought that fit with King Crimson really well. You have a song like Neurotica, you know, the music is going like that, and I visualized the singer or shouter in that particular case as doing that same kind of thing. And so that's why we called that record Beat. And then I named some of the things in there from like Neurotica itself is from, I believe, Allen Ginsberg or one of those writers, Kerouac, someone. So the theme became like that kind of poetry and that kind of imagery.
Yeah, and it includes Neil and Jack and Me.
Neil and Jack and Me, that was one of my favorite autobiographies, Neil and Jack Cassidy. Neil Cassidy and Jack Kerouac.
Steve, you mentioned that he was one of your, you were very excited about the idea of Steve maybe assuming that role. Have you and he ever played together before?
No, we'd never played together and rarely ever seen each other. We'd meet kind of at a NAMM shows. Oh, there he is. I would go over and talk to him. And I love his playing, but like he says about my playing, I'm so busy, I haven't really been able to follow you. I said, same thing, I'm so sorry. But now he's sending me videos every day.
Every day?
Every day, Steve Vai sends me a video with him playing another song. What do you think of what I'm doing here? What about this sound and stuff? And when he plays, I just die. I'm like, golly, what a fluid, fantastic player. Sweet guy, so heavily professional, no drama in this band at all. I'm really happy about that.
Wonderful. And it'll be great to play with Tony again, too, I'm sure.
Oh, I love Tony the most. I mean, he's probably, in my experience, perhaps top 3 players I've ever known, and people as well.
Is Steve playing in Robert's new standard tuning?
No.
Okay.
Robert didn't use that tuning then.
Oh, he didn't?
I was the one who had odd
interesting.
tunings.
I did not know he was not into that.
No,
Okay.
he was still playing in standard tuning, and I once in a while would retune my guitar. In fact, for 3 of the songs I'll be playing the show, I have to tune it to. But I always made my special tunings be very simple. Put something in the middle of the guitar. In this case, the G string, tune it up to an A. Mm-hmm. And because it's in the middle of the guitar, it throws everything. You can't do the same chords or anything. You find new shapes. But it's simple. You can do it quickly, tune it down, and you're back.
Ah, that's a really practical
That's the
approach.
way I like to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to that because I know, Robert, I didn't recall the timeline, but many years ago for Musician magazine, I was the first person to extract the new standard tuning from Robert publicly. It took a little bit of jimmying, but we got him to.
And you can
to
see
open up
that tuning, you have to completely restring your guitar, a whole different sets of. They didn't even make a set of strings for that, so it's a bigger business, bigger deal, I should say, to switch to that tuning. But it works great for Robert.
Well, now, you did say that putting together the music for Discipline opened an entirely new world for you, but you'd already played on some really challenging and interesting recordings, the Talking Head stuff, the Bowie recordings, Frank Zappa. I mean, you were sort of if you weren't yet in the thick of things, you were definitely swimming in the stream.
Well, in all of those things, I was considered sort of a sideman, playing mostly guitar or singing. Mm-hmm. It was with King Crimson that it was, okay, here, now you write this stuff, which is what I was waiting for. And you even write the words. Robert declared that if I was going to sing something, I should write my own words. So that's why I say it was harrowing for me, because you're speaking now for King Crimson and these very high level people as a lyricist, and also then there's the music. I mean, we started with and I'm thinking, how do I write a song with that? But gradually, my mind opened to it, and Robert was very accommodating. If I said, now it needs to move to this chord here, and then it resolved this way, he was all for that. So he helped a lot because he needed the songwriting side too.
Well, and you are writing songs that are going to be under the scrutinous eye of Robert Fripp, and that has made many people break into a sweat.
Robert and I always had. People don't realize this. Some people think we didn't get along or whatever. That's not true. We rarely had any kind of disagreement whatsoever. Robert was always super supportive of me, and he never did to me what he would do to everyone else, which is like the look, like, Bill Bruford, oh my God, he beat up on Bill all the time, but Bill could take it and give it right back. But he never was that way with me. Strangely, he gave me full rein, and we became best buddies. I don't know how many hundreds of hours we worked right in this very room, and he stayed in the downstairs guest room. One time he was here, I think it was 190 days of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He saw his wife 24 days that year. He used to joke about it. He lived here. So, our relationship was one of really creative, trying to always reinvent the wheel.
Well, and as a journalist years ago, I had gotten some pretty entertaining views of his sense of humor. Yeah. And now that he and Toya have been doing the Sunday lunch things, everyone gets to see that.
Yeah, well, back then, when I worked with him for 33 years, that was pretty hidden unto only the people within his realm and his friends. He had the stern, that's how he portrayed himself, but he's opened up now. I think he's obviously he's happier and doesn't need to, do that anymore, which is great.
Well, two more things I'd like to ask you about. One is your singing. I really love your singing. You have such a great way with melody. Your tonality and range is really wide and comfortable. Who did you pattern your singing style after, or were there inspirations and touch points?
I started really singing when I was a child, and the things on the radio, that's what I would sing. I would sing along with the radio, so it was people like the Everly Brothers and Roy Orbison and the Beach Boys and things like that. And then, of course, by the time I was 12, then it was the Beatles.
Right.
And they changed my life. And immediately I said, that's what I'm going to do. What, be big and famous and rich? No, not that part. No, just I'm going to be a songwriter. I want to make records. That's what I want to do with my life. And so I studied everything about their records. I would study the arrangements, the productions, everything. And that, in a way, that was kind of my first schooling. My second schooling was, let's see, age 27 when I found myself auditioning and then being in Frank Zappa's band. And Steve Vai and I talk about this, you know, because we both graduated from what we call the Zappa School of Rock.
Yes.
And that is when Frank really showed me how to be a professional recording artist, touring musician, showed me everything I really need to know. He took me through the mastering stage with him once. We made a film together. You know, we just did so much stuff. And once again, like with Robert, Frank sidled up to me. You know, I would always sit with him on the planes. I'd go to breakfast with him in the mornings and stuff. And he just really took care of me, you know. And I learned a lot. And from that point on, I was ready to do everything else. And it wasn't just the musical side, although I would say with Frank, it's very important that by working with him, I had to learn how to deal with odd time signatures, because otherwise I couldn't have written what I write in King Crimson. But more with Frank, it was more the life lesson part. Like, here, kid, here's what you do. I had never even been on a plane before when I flew out to audition. That's how green I was.
Wow.
I didn't know anything. I quickly learned.
Yes, you got a crash course.
And the thing that was really great for me about working with Frank is his motto was, I want you to play this consistently and correctly. And that meant you don't do anything the night before so that you can't come in and do that. So no drugs and none of that stuff, which was fine with me. That didn't bother me at all. I wasn't in that place anyway. But it did give me kind of a lesson, like, this is how you do it. You have to really commit to it. So then when I next played with David Bowie, that was a piece of cake, because David was just totally free. Play whatever you want, do it. I just encourage, play all the wild stuff you want. And there's no, you know, not the same school of thought of play this and play only this correctly and really difficult stuff. David's music, I knew it fairly well because I had played some of it in cover bands, and I was really, you know, very comfortable with it. I was super comfortable when I got the next band, Talking Heads, because that music, I could just play that in my sleep. You just, you know, the Remain in Light album is, every song is in one key. It's a guitar player's dream. You don't even have to worry about chord changes.
Well, and that's where I mentioned I first saw you perform, and I thought to myself, this guy is an expressionist. Look at what he's doing.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. Is I'm here to color the air with these things, and no one much soloed in either of those bands. So take it away. You're the soloist here. Go crazy with it. Frank gave me a little bit of room to solo, but that wasn't the idea, and I appreciated his thing totally.
And recently,
I appreciated all of it.
Well, and recently you've been revisiting the Talking Heads music as well with Jerry, and I bet that's been a wonderful experience.
It is fabulous. It's something, once again, back when I started the idea for, you know, playing some of the King Crimson music again in the right, way, the right people. Jerry and I were also talking about, wow, wouldn't it be great to relive the 1980 tour we did, where they had the extended band and 10-piece band, and it was just so groovy, and the music was so exciting and happy, and people just got up and danced. And I said, man, that's what is needed right now in the world, you know. You got too many somber, serious things going on. Let's have a band you can just dance to, but it's an artistic band with, you know, really interesting things going on. And so finally he produced Turquoise, and he said, I think I found exactly the right band. We can do this right now. We just got to join their band. So we were able to finally do it.